So yeah, my clock says it's 7 o'clock, so I'll call our special council meeting to order. And of course, first we need to adopt the agenda and a recommendation that the agenda for the October 29th, excuse me, 2025 special meeting of council be accepted and passed. Could I get a mover and seconder? Councilor McCabe and Councilor Hearn, thank you. All those in favor? That's carried, thank you. Disclosure of pecuniary interest, I have none to declare. Councilor Hearn?
No.
Councilor McCabe?
I have none, Mayor.
Councilor Burke?
No.
Okay, thank you. That brings us right to our presentation with Derek and John. So welcome, gentlemen.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. This is about the water and sewer rates. So John is going to go through the presentation, and then at the end, between the two of us, hopefully we can answer your questions.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you, Derek and Mr. Mayor and members of council. My name is John Murphy. I'm here to present the draft water and wastewater rate study and OREG financial plan. We have the agenda here. We'll quickly go through the township's current situation in regards to water and wastewater rates and customers. We'll present the full cost assessment of both water and wastewater systems, and we'll show the calculated rate that recovers the full cost of each system. Now, we do have some options in regards to the wastewater rate, which is at a higher end. And then we'll present the financial plans for water and wastewater. Okay, so the last rate study was done by the township in 2020. Since that time, a lot has happened. You've got an updated development charge background study. You have a state of infrastructure report that was just prepared earlier this year, new growth management action plan in 2024, and technical studies, I guess the master plans for Arthur and Mount Forest. And it's the current draft. So our rate study includes the full cost of water and wastewater. That's operating capital over a 10-year period, 2026 to 2035. We've projected out customer and consumption growth over that 10-year period. We've calculated the current rates, or the projected rates over that that 10-year period, and we've updated your water financial plan, which is a requirement to renew your drinking water license, and we've also prepared a wastewater financial plan, which is considered best practice. So currently, the township has water and wastewater rates. The water and wastewater rates for residential customers are pretty much a flat fee. We call it a base charge. Non-residential customers have a base charge plus a meter maintenance fee, as well as a volumetric charge per cubic meter of water consumed and wastewater billed. So in essence, the township does not have meter for residential customers, just non-residential customers. So we've estimated the number of customers in 2025, which is based on the 2024 customer information provided by your utility, and we provided for anticipated growth in 2025. You can see there's about 3,550 water customers, and I think there's about 101 water-only customers. So you've got about 3,447 wastewater customers.
Sorry, Mr. Murphy, are you meaning to share your screen?
Oh, I thought I did.
Sorry, I was just
But then
going to ask.
I asked you to turn it off so I could see what I was doing. Sorry.
Okay,
I'm following along on the one that was sent in the agenda, but
okay. Sorry, let's get back to here. I apologize for that. I've got too many screens up. And where did that go? Well, it says sharing. So if I stop share and then share and presentation. And do you have the presentation now on your screen?
It's just coming up.
it's black right now, John.
Okay.
Okay, why don't I share? I'll pull it up. See if we can do that. Share, just a sec. Can you see that?
Mayor, can I just ask a quick question through you while we're,
Sure.
thank you, and this is for you, John. The number of customers for water and the number of customers for wastewater, why is that a different number?
Because there's about 101 water only customers. So the water
Oh,
only
sorry, you're
customers.
just getting into that. Sorry. Okay, sorry.
All right.
So can you
Yeah.
see that? Is it sharing? Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Am I
So
on the
slide
right
3.
slide?
Yep.
This is the right
So
slide?
you can work your way down to slide 7.
Ooh. 5, 6, 7.
Okay. So there's the number of customers, residential, non-residential within Arthur and Mount Forest. So you can see there's 3,548. This is an estimated for 2025. As I indicated, it's the 2024 customer count with additional customer provision for anticipated growth in 2025. But the 2024 numbers indicated there's 101 water only accounts. So those customers do not have sanitary sewer services provided to them currently. Okay, next slide. And now we get to the estimated 2025 consumption on slide 8.
Are we on that yet?
Yep.
Yep.
So
Okay.
you have to move it to
One more.
I think you control it. So drop it
There we
down
go.
to slide 8. So you got about 280,000 cubic meters of water consumed. Now there is in regards to the non-residential customers, I think there's one customer in Mount Forest, and I believe it's a lawn bowling business that does not have wastewater, and therefore there's a small difference between the amount of water consumed and wastewater billed. Next slide. So here's the draft water budget. Now it's the budget that was provided to us. The only difference is the transfer to the reserve line, which is based on our estimates. It's a little bit higher in our projection because we've accounted for growth in customers as well as the recommended increase in the water rate. Next slide. So the wastewater budget is the same. It's as provided to us. It's draft. The only difference is the transfer to the capital reserve, which also reflects increased surpluses due to customer growth, consumption growth, and increased in the wastewater rates. Next slide. So here we get into the full cost assessment calculation. So as I indicated, the study period is 10 years from 2026 to 2025. And the rates that we propose ensures the full cost recovery of the net cost from customers. Now, the full cost of service is calculated or developed from information provided by staff, which includes the draft capital budget, operating budget, reserve balances, existing debt, and the customer count and consumption levels. Next slide. So the projected capital needs. The capital projects considered are as contained in the draft water and wastewater capital budget forecast provided by staff. There's also growth projects, which were contained in the 2021 development charge background study, which shows the growth capital that's required to service the anticipated growth within the township. Now, there is a line. It's the additional capital replacement provision, which is based on the life cycle cost analysis contained in the township's 2025 State of Infrastructure Report. Now, this additional provision will ensure that there is capital funding being provided from rates to address the future life cycle needs of the township. Now, this is as per the State of Infrastructure Report, which indicated the level of asset replacement and renewal that was required to occur over annually over the 10-year period. And now that additional provision was adjusted, well, I'll say reduced to reflect the replacement capital projects that were deemed replacement in nature from the capital budget, and the replacement component of the growth-related capital in the development charge background study. So in essence, we're not double counting your replacement needs over the forecast period. Now, this was done in a calculation. Now, that amount was averaged over the 10-year period to avoid spikes in the rates. Next slide. So here's your projected water capital needs, which includes your capital projects contained in your capital budget forecast, your growth-related projects from your DC background study, and the additional asset replacement provision to ensure that funding is raised through rates to address your capital replacement needs over the forecast period. And we also show in the bottom component of this table is the projected sources of financing to ensure capital is funded. Now, you can see there's a large growth component to the water capital forecast. Now, this is, I believe there's 2 water towers looking to be built to service growth, and they're quite expensive. And I believe 85% of those projects are funded from development charges or third-party funding, whether it's upfront funding from developers. Next slide.
Yep.
So here
Oh, sorry.
we have the wastewater capital needs projection, and as you can see, the phase 2 of the wastewater treatment plant is in 2027. Quite expensive, but I believe 85% of that is funded from development charges or third-party funding. So the growth component of all your growth-related projects are funded from development charges or third-party funding and will not impact on the rate calculation. But now one thing I should add, you can note the asset replacement rehabilitation provision. In the State of Infrastructure report, there were some sizable years. There were years where there were sizable replacement requirements, as well as a significant backlog in asset replacement and rehabilitation. So that's why this the amount in this line is quite high compared to water. And in regards to the financing of the capital needs projection, there will be a requirement to issue debt for non-growth capital, which will be funded. The debt servicing related to the non-growth capital will be funded from future rates. Next slide. So now we get to the operating budget projections. We start with the draft operating budget as a baseline. The operating maintenance cost contained with the operating budget was increased annually by 2%. Debt servicing is a combination of the existing debt servicing and wastewater plus any anticipated new debt servicing that is a result of the forecast debt needed to fund the capital program. Now, transfers to the capital reserves, which you see is based on the required annual operating surpluses as generated by the increases in customers' consumption and the recommended rate increases. Next slide. So here we have the projected operating expenditure. I don't want to call it a budget, but it's a projection of operating expenditures over the 10-year period. And you can see salary and benefits, operating expenditures, your rural component of your water, your debt servicing, and then you have your capital transfer to capital reserves, which is the largest component of your operating budget, which is required to fund your non-growth component of your capital program. Next slide. So here we have the wastewater projected operating expenditures. Same thing, the largest component is the transfers to the capital reserve, which is the needed funding to address your rehab and rehabilitation needs over the next 10 years. Next slide. So we've also projected your reserves, which consist of your development charge reserves and your capital reserve funds. So your development charge reserve funds are funded from DCs collected on anticipated new growth. These balances are used to fund capital the growth-related capital, as well as to service any growth-related debt. We'll probably talk about that a little bit later on in the presentation. Now, the balances in the capital reserve are used to fund the non-growth share of capital. The transfer to the capital reserves are based on the operating surpluses as provided by the proposed rates. Next slide. So with the development charge reserve funds, now one thing, I don't know if you're currently undertaking a development charge background study, but your growth-related capital needs for water is quite substantial. So I can anticipate there being increases or significant increases in the water component of your development charges. What's happening, at least in regards to the funding of the water growth-related capital program, there's large amounts of long-term debt because you don't have enough money in the reserve. So your debt servicing of that anticipated growth will eventually exceed your development charge collections. So I foresee an increase in your development charge water rates. Same thing with the wastewater development charge reserve fund, but the amount of debt issued and the amount of growth-related debt that's to be serviced from the your wastewater development charge reserve is a lot less, and therefore rates may or may not increase. I don't know the specifics, but anyways, okay. Next slide. So your capital reserve fund, we've identified or are recommending a target balance between 3 and 5% of your future replacement value of capital infrastructure. By the end of the forecast period, to have this level of capital reserves as percent of your future replacement value, it really ensures that the township will be in I call it a strong financial position to address future asset replacement needs beyond 2035. So we're just not looking at the short term, we're looking at the long term in regards to these rates. So when we look at the projected capital reserve, by the end of 2035, the water capital reserve balance is projected to be $7 million or 5% of the future water rates replacement value of the water capital infrastructure. So that's what you're targeting if you can. Wastewater capital reserve balance is 8.5 million or approximately 4.8 of the future wastewater replacement value of the wastewater infrastructure. Should be wastewater. Okay, next slide. So here's your projections of your capital reserves. And you can see that they fluctuate up and down. But at the end of 2035, or at the end of the forecast period, your water reserve is approximately 5% of your projected future replacement value. So that puts you in a strong position to address your replacement needs, asset replacement needs beyond 2035. Wastewater, same, you're at 4.8% of the wastewater future replacement value. And these replacement values were obtained from your State of Infrastructure report, which identified your current replacement value in 2025. Those values were increased 3% each year, plus we added the growth component of your capital program. So obviously your infrastructure is growing in size, but also growing in replacement costs. Next slide. We've also projected outstanding debt for both water and wastewater systems. Now that debt is broken into growth-related and non-growth. Growth-related debt is used in cash flowing the growth-related portion of capital projects when you don't have any development charges to fund that capital project in that current year. So what happens is debt is issued to cash flow the growth component of the project, and then the future the development charge proceeds will service that debt. In regards to the non-growth related debt, again, that's only required when the capital reserve balances reach a minimum level, which I believe is a value equivalent to a half a year of your operating budget. So again, these are projections, and I believe the wastewater capital program has a small amount of debt which is anticipated to fund that capital program that I presented earlier. So next slide. So here's your debt projections. So we have the water growth related debt. Again, it's quite sizable because there are large growth related projects that were identified for the water system, whereas there's not as much in regards to the wastewater growth related capital program and growth related debt. Next slide. We did not project the need for any water related, non-growth related debt, but there are a number of years where the non-growth related debt would be required to cash flow your capital needs. Next slide. So in regards to customer consumption growth, as I indicated earlier, the 2025 customer consumption estimates were based on information provided by the Wellington North Power Inc., adjusted for 2025 customer consumption growth. The growth beyond that was based on the population employment growth projections contained in the township's 2024 growth management action plan. I believe there's a projection of about 990 new residential, non-residential customers over the 10-year period. And the customer consumption growth is the denominator in the rate calculation. So that's an important piece of information that we use. Next slide. So here's a projection of the customers. As you can see, 990 customers by 2035 that will consume a projected 332,000 or 333,000 cubic meters of water. Next slide. And these are the projection of the wastewater customers and billed wastewater volumes. Next slide. So here's the calculation of the proposed rates. Now, these rates are based on the recovery of the full cost of managing the water and wastewater systems and ensuring financial sustainability over the 10-year period. Now, these rate increases are based on the costs that I discussed in the presentation, which includes the capital needs and the capital asset rehabilitation and replacement provision that was added. So water rate increases are projected at 2% annually over the 10-year period, whereas wastewater rate increases are projected at 8% annually over the forecast period. And as I said earlier, wastewater rate increases are mainly driven by the need for capital funding to address the additional capital asset replacement requirements. Next slide. So here are the rates, water rates that were increased by 2% over the 2026 to 2035 forecast period. And next slide. And here are the wastewater rates, which show an 8% increase over the 10-year forecast period. Next slide. Now here are what we call rate mitigation options that we wanted to present to council for their consideration. So currently we're indicating wastewater rates should increase by 8% annually over the forecast period. And as I indicated, their main reason why this is happening is it's being driven by the additional capital funding requirement due to the capital asset replacement needs as indicated in the township's 2025 State of Infrastructure Report. So the average annual additional capital asset replacement provision is approximately $2.3 million per year. Now, to mitigate the wastewater rate impact on customers, we indicate there's two rate mitigation options that are presented where we are looking to phase in that $2.3 million over that 10-year period, as opposed to having it put into place in 2026. This should provide relief in regards to the rate increases on the wastewater customers. Next slide. Okay, so the phasing in of the capital asset replacement requirement, or the wastewater capital asset replacement requirement over the 10-year period, would see the additional capital asset replacement requirement be reduced from $2.3 million to $1.3 million a year. That's average over the 10-year period. The proposed wastewater rate increase, these are the two options. We're looking at increasing. Option one would be to increase rates by 4% per year, wastewater rates by 4%, and option 2 would be to increase the wastewater rates by 5% annually over the forecast period. Now, under these options, so we're phasing in the additional capital asset replacement requirement for wastewater. So by doing that, there will be no need for a projected need for long-term debt under both of these scenarios. Next slide. So this is the rates, or these are the rates under option 1, which are increasing by 4% annually. Next slide. And these would be the rates that under option 2 that are increasing annually by 5%. Next slide. So here we get to the differences between the two options is the capital reserve fund projection. Under option 1, where rates are increased by 4%, the 2035 year-end balance is only 2.1% of the future wastewater replacement value. Whereas under option 2, the wastewater capital reserve is forecast to be 3.9%, which falls within the recommended 3 to 5% of the future replacement value. Next slide. So in essence, as we've recommended a target balance between 3 and 5% of future replacement value of the capital infrastructure, we're recommending that option 2 be considered by council to ensure that the wastewater system is in a strong financial position during the 10-year forecast period and is prepared to address any future replacement needs, capital replacement needs beyond 2035. Next slide. So the two recommendations increase water rates be increased annually over the 10-year forecast period by 2%, and that the wastewater rate mitigation option number 2 be approved where wastewater rates are increased annually by 5% over the forecast period. Okay, next slide. Now we're going to talk about the water and wastewater financial plans. Now, I'll probably mention this again, but these financial plans are based on the recommended rate structure or rates which have a operating capital requirement. So it's in essence, it's the financial plans are really pro forma financial statements, which are based on the cost of service for water and wastewater I just presented. So Ontario Regulation 18807 requires Ontario municipalities to apply, or in your case, to renew your drinking water license as part of their overall drinking water quality management system. So the town's license expires May 12, 2026, and an application is required to be made 6 months prior. So in your case, it's November 13th of this year. Now, one of the requirements of the application for a drinking water license renewal is to submit a financial plan that shows a financially sustainable water system. Next slide. So as I indicated earlier, the financial plan is a condition of the drinking water license renewal. Council approval is required prior to submission to the province of the license renewal application. Now, a wastewater financial plan is not a requirement of the regulation, but is considered best practice by the province. So we were asked to prepare a financial plan for both the water and wastewater systems. Next slide. So in essence, the financial plan really includes the following 3 financial statements: the statement of financial position, statement of cash flows, and statement of operations. Now, the financial plan will minimum requirement is for a 6-year period. The first year being the year the license is being renewed, and in the township's case, that would be 2026. So the forecast or the period which this covers is from 2026 to 2031. And as I indicated earlier, the financial statements are based on the recommendations contained in the water and wastewater rate study. Next slide. Okay, so the statement of financial positions shows the assets, liabilities, and accumulated surplus of the water system. So what we have here the cash, receivables, and investments really is your balances and your two reserves, your capital reserve, your water capital reserve, and your water development charge reserve. Deferred revenue, that's the balance in your development charge reserve, because it's a commitment to the developers that that money will be spent on funding growth capital. So that's why it's considered a liability. But as I said, it's still cash in the bank. Long-term liabilities are the outstanding balances of long-term debt that we forecast would be needed to fund your growth capital program. So what you have here, when you deduct your liabilities from your cash or your current assets, you have either so at the end of the day, you have a net debt by 2031, and what that shows is that your liabilities exceed your current assets, but your current assets being cash really is probably the more important thing. It's not the level of debt, but it's your ability to service that debt, which would be considered more important. So that's not necessarily a bad thing where you're in a net debt position by 2031. You're in that position because you're spending a lot of money on asset renewal and replacement. So when we get to the non-financial assets, which really is the value of your water infrastructure, you can see how it's increasing from 30 million to 58 million, which implies that a heck of a lot of money is being spent on either new or asset renewal. Now, when you get to your accumulated net book value of your infrastructure, that too is increasing from 19 million to about $44.5 million. So when you look at the bottom line, your asset consumption ratio, that is sort of a percentage of how much your assets have been depreciated or consumed. Now that's actually reducing over the forecast period, which shows that you're investing more in your capital infrastructure that is being consumed through amortization. So that's a good thing. Next slide. So here's your statement of cash flows for your water system. It shows your sources and uses of cash. First, we have our cash from operations. So we take your surplus and deficit. We make adjustments for non-cash transactions. In this case, it's amortization and earned revenue. Now, earned revenue is the development charges that are used in funding growth capital, because when development charges are collected, it's not considered revenue. When they're spent, it's considered revenue for the purposes of financial reporting. So you can see there's actually cash being provided in those operations, and that's needed to obviously pay for the principal component of debt servicing, as well as to provide monies into the reserve for future asset replacement. Now we have other uses, which is your purchase of tangible capital assets. As you can see, there's quite a lot of money being spent on infrastructure. And then your financing activities, cash from financing activities, which are your development charges collected, proceeds from long-term debt, and then, of course, there's a reduction, which is payment out to service the debt, or the principal, I should say. And so at the end of the day, your cash balances are being reduced, but they're still healthy. And therefore, that's a good thing, because having healthy cash balances ensure that you have the ability to pay for, to service your debt and to pay for unforeseen requirements. Next slide. Now we have your statement of operations, which shows your revenues and expenses over the forecast period. So obviously there's revenue from your customers, your water customers. Earned revenue, this is the development charges that are spent on funding growth capital. Other revenue consists of the interest on the reserve balance, as well as your miscellaneous sources of revenue, such as connection fees. Then we have our expenses, which is your operating and maintenance costs, your non-TCA capital. These are amounts which are spent on studies that are funded within the capital program, but would be deemed operating expense, which they would not be capitalized, and therefore they'd be expensed in the year. Interest on debt is an expense, and of course your amortization, which is the consumption of your capital infrastructure. So what we're showing is that each year there are operating surpluses, which is a necessity to ensuring a long-term financially sustainable system. So next slide. Now we look at the wastewater system. Same three financial statements, statement of financial position. What you show is that even though you're getting into a net debt position by 2035, you still have healthy cash reserves. Also, your tangible capital asset is increasing quite substantially again as a result of replacing your capital infrastructure as well as new growth-related capital. So again, your wastewater asset consumption ratio is declining, which shows that you're investing more in your infrastructure than is being consumed through amortization. Next slide. Statement of cash flows. Again, we have your operating surplus and adjustments there too, but it shows that cash is being generated each year from operations, which again is a necessity for a long-term financially sustainable wastewater system. Then we have our uses of cash in regards to the purchase of your tangible capital assets or your infrastructure, wastewater infrastructure. You have your DC collections, which is cash inflow, proceeds from long-term debt, which is used to cash flow the capital program. In this case, it's a growth-related capital. Your servicing of the long-term debt. And as you can see, your cash at the end of the year, while it does decline, there's still a healthy balance at the end of the 2031 cast period. So again, to note, this is a 6-year projection, 2026 to 2031, whereas the rate study was done out to 2035. Next slide. And your statement of operations for wastewater. Again, you can see the rate revenue, your earned revenue, which is your development charges used, your interest on the reserve balances. And we get to the expenditures, again, your operating maintenance, your non-TCA capital, your interest on debt, which is expensed. You don't expense principal. And your amortization, which is a large line item, which is the consumption of your wastewater capital infrastructure. But as you can see, the accumulated surplus shows the resources available for your wastewater system increasing from 35 million to 55 million over that 6-year period. Next slide. So both water and wastewater systems would be the financial condition would be considered excellent. Should council adopt these rates? So the recommendations in regards to the OREG financial plans for water and wastewater is that the water system financial plan number 113-301A be approved by the council and submitted to the province of Ontario in accordance with the drinking water system license renewal requirements and Ontario Regulation 45307. The wastewater system financial plan, including the financial statements contained herein be received by council, and that a copy of the financial plan, water and wastewater, be posted on the township's website and made available to the public at no charge. Next slide, and I think that's it. So we're open for questions.
Okay, questions from council? Councilor McCabe.
Thank you, and through you, Mayor. Just going back to page 47, the water statement of cash flows. Is that right? Sorry, I might have the wrong.
Slide 47?
Yeah.
Yes, water statement of cash flows.
Do you want me to share it again?
Sorry, page 48. Sorry. The water statement of operations. Sorry.
Okay.
So the total expenses of 2.64. Can you maybe clear that up for my head? Where, like, that's the expenses that are accumulated after the water revenue?
Yeah, so what you have is you have your gross, which is your operating maintenance. and your non-TCA capital. The next line, the operating expense should have been a subtotal. It should have been bolded. So you have your operating expenses, which your operating maintenance and non-TCA capital. Then you have your interest on debt, and then your amortization, which is a non-cash expense, but still it's an expense in regards to financial reporting.
Right. So then the difference between the 4.445 million and the 2.644 million is what?
Should be the 1.8.
Yeah. Okay. Just wanted to make sure. And that's a surplus. Okay. Perfect. Thank you. Just want a little clarification on that. Thank you.
Other questions? Councilor Burke?
So my question is, with regards to the options for wastewater, I believe I heard that there was no long-term debt to be incurred for either of the options, and I'm just wondering why.
Because what you're doing is instead of saying in year one you need, the full amount of the additional asset replacement provision, we're going to phase that in so it provides relief. So what it means is that you don't have all the money or all the funds that you need as recommended in the State of Infrastructure report. It provides relief. It just means that the municipality needs to be more mindful on monitoring the condition of your wastewater infrastructure. What this rate study does, it indicates these rates will generate funds that will be available to address your asset replacement needs. The study indicated you probably should be spending, I think it's 5 million backlog, 2025, 7 million, 2020, these sizable amounts. And what we did is we took those amounts, we reduced them to reflect capital replacement provisions in your capital budget and the non-growth component of growth projects to reduce that additional amount and then average it out over the 10-year period. So we didn't say you need $15 million in year one. So it was averaged out to 2.3. But if we phase it in, 230 first year, 460 second year, 690, it allows for those first few years where you don't need to issue debt because you're spending it all on those asset replacement needs. So it means that the projected capital program is going to be lower in the first few years. The last year, it'll be the same under the 8% option, the 4% option, and the 5% option, the size of the capital program. But it just means the capital programs are lower because of the phasing in of that additional provision for asset replacement and rehabilitation. So under the options, no debt is forecasted to be required to fund the capital program.
Other questions? So Jerry, I see you have your hand up.
I just wanted to add to John's point there, through Mayor Lennox. There's going to be debt components on the wastewater in the next 2 years, but it's going to be paid for directly through growth, development charges collected, but it would be for wastewater. The portion where he's not anticipating us having to have debt finance is the costs that are rates funded within our capital program, but we would have debt, but it's going to be under through development charges towards wastewater.
Correct.
So just to put it a different way, any debt in wastewater is going for growth-related infrastructure.
That's correct.
Councilor McCabe?
Thank you. And through you again, Andy. So a large portion of the increase is likely related to the asset management row on the spreadsheet. And that I don't think that was included on the last rate study. Is that correct?
I believe there was something, but it was done internally. We looked at your TCA your tangible capital asset registry, looking at the year asset was acquired, the service life. We inflated that historical cost out to the year of replacement. We did that for all assets, and it sort of gave us an age-based assessment of your infrastructure. And then I think there was an additional amount added to ensure that should those assets be required to replace at the end of their service life, but we all know that many assets can their lives can be extended by a variety of different interventions. But in regards to that, I believe additional amount was added to ensure that funds are generated to be able to be prepared for the replacement of that infrastructure should it end at the end of its service life.
Okay. Thank you.
Other questions?
I hope we get help from the province on some of these things.
I've got a list of questions, and that's one of them that you're alluding to, Councillor McCabe, and that is any external capital grant funding been factored into this?
Currently, no. I'll let Jerry speak to that. I'm off guard.
Okay. Through your mail, it's as we're aware, we've been applying for a few grants, both with the provincial government and the federal government. The success rate for this grant is always based on factors that are way beyond our control. So we're really focusing on the study on the elements that we have some form of control over for our various asset classes within water and wastewater. So we've not factored any grant funding into this competition.
Okay. I've got more, but if others have questions, please stick your hand up and I'll go ahead, Councillor Burke.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if there was a consideration to sort of phase this in over 10 years. I think that it's a fairly large increase. Doesn't matter what percentage we look at. I mean, water, we've been sort of consistent with 2%, but wastewater, I think either of the options that are being presented, and specifically with option 2, I think that is a huge increase for our residents. And I'm just wondering if there was any consideration for a more phased-in approach.
Well, we did phase in over the 10-year period in equal installments versus 5%, 10%, 15%, 20%. It was just the amount divided by 10. So we've increased that provision. So at the end of the 2035, the full amount is being funded from rates. We didn't look at any other sort of phase-in structure.
If I may, Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead.
I'd like to add to what John is saying. I think with the 5% phase and that 5% increase, it still gives you the opportunity to have a sustainable financial wastewater system. I think if you go any lower, then there'd be some risks that you may not be in that position over the 10-year period. You may have some gaps in your financial sustainability for the wastewater system. And if you look at the original increase was estimated or is estimated to be around 8%. That is if you would have everything, tight and on the road and you're good and solid. But we think that you can, as John has indicated, phase in the requirements for the infrastructure rehab and replacement. And in doing so, you're still in a good, solid financial position over the 10-year period. But if you drop below that, then you may run the risk of not being in that position from a financial standpoint for your wastewater system.
Okay. One of the questions that I had in mind is particularly related to the replacement of existing linear infrastructure. Is anything been put in the budget for road rehabilitation? We tend to do a lot of this work when we're doing road rehab at the same time, so that doesn't have an additional cost of road rehabilitation during that linear infrastructure replacement. So is there any provision in this for that?
I don't know if Jerry wants to speak to it. I don't know if the director of engineering is there, but there are a number of capital projects that are related to linear infrastructure replacement, which I would assume, Jerry, you can confirm that they're tied to water, wastewater, and roads capital programs.
Sure. Through you, Mayor Lennox. In going through the study, as part of the technical requirements that we got back from our engineers, we factored in the road projects and the projects that also have elements of water and wastewater, and those are factored across the years through through the capital forecast that was presented.
Okay, so I'm just digesting that for a minute. So what you're saying, to try to put it a different way, what you're saying is the projects that are in this budget are also projects that are scheduled for road rehab.
That's correct.
Okay, so there's no additional road rehab budget amounts in this linear infrastructure replacement, other than what would be paid by normally through the roads budget.
Yeah, through you, Mayor
So-
Lennox.
Oh,
Sorry, it's Corey here. And through you, Mayor Lennox, if I may.
Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, so the projects that we've identified for full reconstruction projects out throughout the 10 years forecast, we looked at those projects in consultation with the roads team and the infrastructure team and have factored in some of the cost for the road reconstruction, including resurfacing. Some of a percentage of that would be related to the water and wastewater portion of the job and has been factored into the cost that you see for those projects that are identified at the 10 years.
Okay, so then this kind of goes to my next question, and this plan, and I applaud the plan, looks at full cost of rehabilitation of existing infrastructure and dealing with the infrastructure gap and the related infrastructure for water and wastewater. We're not in that position. I don't see us being in that position to be able to fund that from our own source resources on our non-water and wastewater projects like roads over that same 10-year period. So the potential here is for these projects to get delayed further and that infrastructure to be extended beyond maybe its useful life, because we don't have the resources to rehabilitate the roads at the same rate. And I guess I just ask you to comment on the possibility of that in your analysis.
If that's directed at me, Corey or Jerry.
Whoever wants to tackle that one.
Yeah. So through you,
I'm
Mayor Lennox,
agnostic in that regard.
I'll just start, Mayor Lennox, that yes, we that is definitely a concern. If some of these road reconstruction projects are delayed, then that probably means that the water and wastewater infrastructure under that road will not be restored at that time neither. What we've done for identified projects, it's some projects that we've have already previously been identified. They're in different states of from just being talked about to currently in the engineering phase to going to issue for construction. So we've looked at basically, as we've done historically, roughly a block of replacement per construction season, I guess you could say. So we've looked out over the course of the 10 years and either 1 to 2, for the most part, one block of full reconstruction, which would include water, wastewater, the storm sewers, your road, surface, curb, gutter, sidewalk, everything, kind of a block per year going forward over the next 10 years.
Okay.
And historically, we've done that. But you're right, that may not happen some years.
Okay. My next question is, we're talking about, particularly on the wastewater side, there was some discussion about this is my words, the lumpy nature of the capital requirements, in that we're coming into a period where there's a higher degree of capital replacement requirements. And yes, we are looking at 10 years, but what does the next 10 years look like? Is that the down part of the cycle for the following 10 years? We do see the asset consumption ratio declining, which is an indicator to me that we're more than keeping up with our infrastructure. We're in fact making a gain on it at the same time as building our reserves.
Mr. Mayor, the reduction in the consumption ratio, yes, it reflects the fact that you're investing more in your infrastructure than you're consuming, but that also includes growth projects that currently don't exist. So if you take out that layer, your consumption ratio would not be declining as quickly. But the intent is to, obviously, you're taking out older assets, older historical costs, replacing them with new assets at inflated costs. So pretty much you're keeping up with your replacement needs. That's at the bottom line. That's what you're showing. But again, you've got new assets in there, and you're replacing your old assets with higher cost assets. But bottom line, you should never see that consumption ratio increase if you're looking at trying to present a strong, financially sustainable water or wastewater system.
Yeah, I'm just trying to balance the needs of our residents to tie up their money in our assets and in our reserves, so to not overcommit ourselves in terms of how secure that needs to be from a financial perspective. And I'm just trying to understand the situation to try to find that balance. Anybody else have some further questions?
I think I'm good for now. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so I think I've got to the end of my list too, so we'll go around the table once more and ask if anybody has any further questions. Jerry, I saw you put your hand up.
Through you, Mayor Lennox. So just going back to your earlier question regarding the capital, linear capital forecast. So just confirmation that I've gone back and just looked at our study one more time. We have one block per year, which is very consistent to the prioritization that we'll do for our annual capital program. Similar to how we bring one full construction program every year. We've prioritized one for either Otto or Mount Forest each year for the sake of this 10-year outlook. And that's what's showing up in the rate computation. And in an instance where some of the assets that have been marked here for replacement, or if projects get segued because of grant funding or taxation funding from the roads side of things, it gives us the ability to do that project when we have to do that down the road. So we're able to give or take save the reserves to be able to get to a point where we can afford them. But some context here as well is that in the last years preceding this, we had our construction index growing at astronomical amounts compared to what they've historically done. We're finally coming back to a 3-4% annual increase. But in the years preceding this year, we had years where we had 15-16% increase year over year on construction indexes. And that has kind of put us on the backbone and how we were able to grow our reserves to fund projects within the time horizon of the previous study. And all of that have been taken into effect into the study to prepare us for the next few years.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else anybody would like to comment on? I mean, we probably need to have some discussion among council to decide where we're going to go, but I just want to check if there's any other comments that anybody wishes to make first. Okay, then I think probably
good for
we
now.
should have some discussion about, I mean, we have a proposal on water, and my gut instinct is likely we would accept a 2%. I think there may be some discussion on the wastewater, but I don't want to presuppose anything. It could be discussion on all of it. But does anybody want to start us off with some of their thoughts on where we ought to end up? Councilor McCabe?
Thank you, and through you, it's a quite an in-depth report, and there's a lot of numbers and a lot of information. So thanks to DFA for that, and Jerry and everyone on the wastewater department that has worked on this. I know it may not seem like a lot, but the 5%, I guess option 2. But it's about, I think it's, what's the difference from the 2026 rate to the 2035 rate? It's about $422, which could break people. You know, we're in a tough spot as it is. So I know we need that money, and we need to set up that kind of I guess I would say, funding for ourselves. And again, I know that this is without any outside funding from the province or feds. And this is just us going alone at it, which I get. But it seems like quite a bit. The 2%, like you had said, for water, I can probably live with that one, Mayor Lennox. But the 5% seems a lot, but I don't know how else we fund it. So I'm not sure if that's a discussion point or a comment or where we go from there.
Other discussion? Councilor Burke?
So I too am fine with the waste or the water. It's the wastewater that I think is quite aggressive. I agree with Councillor McCabe's comments, and I made it earlier that this is going to be a huge shock to a lot of our residents' pocketbooks. Could actually end up, I'm going to use blow up in our face based on the fact that some folks just may not be able to pay for it. So then we have greater debt collections and uncollected debt, so which will skew the numbers. I'd be a lot happier with a much more phased in approach. I know that hasn't been presented here, but I can't support the 5%. I just think that that's too aggressive, and based on, you know, a lot of other factors. We're looking at, you know, soon we'll be looking at the overall budget. There'll be other requests, other
Excuse me.
constraints to the budget on that, and we're going to ask folks to pay more for more of those items. And I also agree with your comment that if we are looking at just wastewater for capital projects, we may have the funds for that, but the projects that go hand in hand, such as roads, and the infrastructure underneath those roads, I don't think we can do it. And I don't like the fact that there wasn't any consideration for either debt or, you know, those grants that were continuously promised from the province.
Okay. Councillor Hearn?
Yeah, I'm fine with the 2%. That's clear. I am uncomfortable with the 5%. However, I'm actually in support of option 2. I find it to be more fiscally responsible. I believe that water and wastewater are largely undervalued by our residents, and while it may be difficult, I'm in support of option 2.
Okay. From my own perspective, there's several things I have concerns about, but I think one of the things that we do, I mean, we're legally required to have a financial plan for the water system to maintain our license. So it has to be separate from that perspective, and it has to be self-financing to be viable for that situation. But I think most of our residents don't really look at these in isolation. They pay the water and wastewater charge at the same time, and yeah, it may be itemized on their bill separately, but they see it as one bill. So while we're talking about 4 or 5%, and on one part of it and 2% on the other, if you blend the two together, you're going to get 3 or 3.5%. So it's maybe not as unpalatable as it might first seem. The other piece that I struggle with, and again, I go back to, I understand the legislative requirement around the water system, but I struggle with us looking at these in isolation completely, because we have the flexibility that if we were in a financial jam, that we could borrow from a reserve on the water side to temporarily fund something on the wastewater side, or vice versa. And so, well, as was alluded to, if we followed this projections, we'd be in an excellent financial position in both. I think if you look at the percentage reserve on the water side, it's right at the top of the range. I think we can afford to be at the bottom of the range on the wastewater side.
I think striking a balance, like you're saying, I think, is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, and I struggle with the fact that going back to the state of infrastructure report, which is really our asset management plan, I struggle with the idea that we should take on for our residents the sole cost of filling that gap. I think provincial regulation and setup has helped create this situation. I think the province and the feds need to help us fix the situation. We need to control what part of it we can control, but we are dependent on the other levels of government, either to find us different sources of funding or to help pay this, because our residents don't have the ability to pay. If you just look across Wellington County, you look at the average income in Wellington North versus the average income in Puslinch, the ability to pay is significantly different. Mm-hmm. And so is it appropriate that we take on all that responsibility on our own without putting the onus back on the province? Now, again, I go back to I understand the legal requirement on the water side, but that doesn't mean that we're bound to that on the wastewater or our other services side. And I think to say that we're going to 100% fund the asset management gap on our own is letting the province off the hook and overburdening our existing residents. So while I understand it's not the recommended action, I would be more inclined to support option 1 in terms of the wastewater thing, because when I look at it in a blended format, I think we're still leaving our water and wastewater systems in a strong financial position, and we're helping to mitigate some of the challenges related for our residents. And also, we need to continue to pursue those capital grants federally and provincially to help defray some of those costs, because our residents don't have the ability to pay.
I would just support something like that, Mayor Lennox. I liked how you said blended. And yeah, we shouldn't be alone in this. We're, there's only one taxpayer, and at some point, surely both the province and the feds can give us some of our taxpayers' money back to help us grow and alleviate some of the costs of future builds and future needs that, again, like you said, they've pushed on us.
Well, and your time on the Roma board too, Councillor McCabe, you've probably heard the comment numerous times about the amount of the infrastructure that municipalities look after and the amount of tax dollars that we have to do it with. And it's out of proportion.
It's amazing. It would drive you crazy if you let it.
Okay.
Would we need not to put the cart before the horse or anything like this, but I'm looking at all the recommendations here. Sorry, just going through the 38 pages here for the recommendation. Is there? Let me get back to the top.
I see you, Sherry. I'll just let Steve finish his thought.
Are we just receiving this as information, or do we need to recommend an option tonight? Sorry, I guess is what I'm, because I see the report.
So we have a legal obligation to approve the financial plan on the water side to meet the water regulations. The wastewater side is I
negotiable.
Think, yeah, it's in a different category.
Yeah. Okay.
But I think we should be setting a direction at the very least. Councillor Burke, sorry.
Yeah, so you've sort of answered my question, Mayor Lennox, because I had noted that the wastewater was encouraged to be submitted, but it wasn't required. So is this the wastewater, is that something that we can continue to discuss? Because I'm not comfortable with I'm just going to say I'm not comfortable with either option that's presented, but also understand that there may be others that are comfortable with the options that are presented. So I guess that's my question is, can we support the water, but sort of defer and have more discussion if there's support for it, to discuss the wastewater further with different options?
So I'll maybe look to Jerry and Corey just to make sure that I have the context right on the water side. There's a time sensitive element of this on the water side in particular to renew the license. The wastewater, it makes sense that we're dealing with them together. Isn't under the same constraints. So
Through you, Mayor Lennox, that's a correct assessment. We have a deadline for November 13th for the water side of things. For the wastewater, while we like to have them go together, we necessarily can continue to debate that if that's the direction the council wants to go.
Does that answer your question, Sherry? Okay. Any other comments? We're still got I think three or four different opinions here, so got to try to narrow the field a little bit.
So I'm happy to say that I'm not happy with either option that's presented here right now.
Okay. Councillor Hearn?
I think your argument made a lot of sense, Mayor Lennox. So I think you've kind of crossed me over to the other side, but I think that we should just approve the water tonight. That's my opinion, and then bring the other back with some further options, because I think we've hashed out a few things that maybe weren't thought of tonight that are very important to our residents and long term. And you're right, the province should not be let off the hook, or the feds, or anyone for that matter.
Yeah, but I think if we're going to continue to put the pressure on them, we're going to have to be thoughtful about how we do that as well. Yeah, go ahead.
But we're never going to get anything if we don't have any need, right? So
yeah. Yeah. Okay, so I think what I'm hearing is a desire to deal with the water one, approve that to meet the necessary regulatory requirement. What else do we need to do here from a procedural perspective?
You can pass the recommendation that's in front of you, which is to accept the water report and get it posted and submit it to the province. And then you can direct staff to bring a report back at a future council meeting with a menu of options or for future discussion.
Okay.
For the wastewater.
Okay, so just let me go through the proposed recommendation here is that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Wellington North receive report TR 2025-009, being a report on the Township of Wellington North over 45307 water system financial plan number 113301A and wastewater system financial plan. Further, the council approve the water system plan. Would we remove the wastewater financial plan at this point? Or would we change it to see the wastewater financial plan prepared by DFA Infrastructure?
Sean, I'm going to defer to you. Do you want me to pull it back up? Like if they approve that.
Can we make an amendment to it, Karen?
Well, you can make an amendment, but John, if they approve the wastewater financial plan without picking an option.
Well, it's through you, Mr. Mayor, you're required to approve the water system financial plan, and the wastewater is discretionary. You don't have to send that to the province. It's part of the draft appendices in the draft report. I can amend that appendices to just have a water system financial plan that will be sent to the province. But for purposes of the township, you'll have an updated wastewater financial plan once you adopt the wastewater. So by having the resolution that council approves the water system financial plan, then I'll just redraft that document. So all it has is water. And then that document can be part of your application to the province.
Except
right. And then
if they pass the resolution. Sorry.
And then we would deal with the wastewater resolution and plan and posting them to the website at a later time.
That's correct.
Okay.
But the recommendation in front of them needs to remove, because what they're approving, if they approve what's in front of them, they're also approving the wastewater system financial plan.
And then we will have to amend it right now.
Yeah.
So on the first clause, you need to remove the wastewater system financial plan. And the second clause, remove the wastewater financial plan.
Yeah.
And the third clause, remove the wastewater system financial plan. I mean, they'll still be approving the water system financial plan.
Right.
Right.
And posting on the website and then
we're
submitting it to
removing that wastewater system financial plan in all the clauses.
Yes. But then you'll be doing the rest of it, submitting to the ministry for the water plan, posting on the website, and submitting the water plan to the Ministry of Environment.
Right.
So each clause needs to so we can just do a friendly amendment here because we haven't moved or seconded this yet. We can just do a friendly amendment right now to remove that. Everything that refers to the wastewater system financial plan.
Right.
Because John, if they approve this and then you do a different plan, what they've approved is a plan that was posted on our agenda tonight.
Yes. So to you, Mr. Mayor, the plan that will be provided to you will be as presented to you tonight, but it'll just be the wastewater.
Yes.
So the document
the water
that you'll get is a water system financial plan, and I'll prepare a second wastewater system financial plan at a later date when you adopt the recommended rate increases.
Right.
So yeah, so I'll prepare that tomorrow and send it off to the township. So it'll be a separate standalone document which you will have approved, and that will be part of the application package.
Okay.
So I'm sorry, I need to close the loop here. If you prepare something to them tomorrow,
on the wastewater plan that has not been approved at a meeting of council, they can't submit that anywhere.
No, it's
No,
just going to be
It's just the water.
Okay, got it. Okay.
We're just dealing with water right now, and then the wastewater we'll deal with in the future.
Yeah.
And then
through you,
so,
Mr. Mayor, you do not have to submit the wastewater financial plan.
Right.
Just that it was part of the same document. And of
Understood.
course, it's council's discretion whether they want to post it on the website as well.
Yeah, I have no quarrel with doing that, but I do think council needs to come to a consensus on where we're going to go on rates before we
Absolutely.
do that.
Yeah. Yes.
so perhaps if you're going to pass the recommendation removing all the wastewater, then direction was provided to staff to bring a wastewater system financial plan to a future meeting of council?
Right.
Is that what we need, Jerry?
Correct.
Yes.
Bring a wastewater system financial plan to a future meeting of council. Okay,
And I think in terms of direction, that financial plan needs to talk about what's the gap we need our partners to fill from a capital grant perspective.
providing partnership contribution to capital. Say it again, Mayor Lennox.
I can never repeat it twice the same.
You know what? We're
You're recording it, right?
I can look at that tomorrow, but providing a partnership contribution in that report to capital.
Correct, Karen.
Right. So what I'm trying to get at is I want to use that information in that report to talk to our federal and provincial counterparts to make the point of why we need their help.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. We'll fix that direction up in the minutes. When you see it, it's going to be perfect.
Okay, so I'll read the recommendation again with the modifications that we had talked about. And then we'll get a mover and a seconder, and we'll try to get this knocked off here. So I have a recommendation that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Wellington North receive report TR 2025-009 being a report on the Township of Wellington North OREG 453/07 Water System Financial Plan number 113-301A and and further that council approve the OREG 453/07 Water System Financial Plan 113-301A prepared by DFA Infrastructure International Inc. dated October 24th, 2025. And further, that council directs staff to post a copy of the OREG 453/07 Water System Financial Plan 113-301A dated October 24th, 2025 on the township website. And further, that council directs staff to submit a copy of the OREG 453/07 Water System Financial Plan number 113-301A dated October 24th, 2025 to the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, and further that the resolution of council approving the OREG 453/07 Water System Financial Plan number 113-301A dated October 24th, 2025 be submitted to the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks on or before November 13th, 2025 as required as part of the municipal drinking water license renewal application. Could I get a mover for that? Councillor McCabe, seconded by Councillor Burke. Any further discussion at this point? All those in favor? That's carried. Okay. Thanks everyone for enduring through that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Okay.
Thanks, Jerry.
Go
Thanks,
Jays.
Brooke. Thanks, Karen. Thanks, council. See you guys.
So we got a couple things to finish up here, Steve, yet.
Oh, yeah. No, see, I'm saying
John
goodbye
and
to those
Derek
guys.
could go watch the ball game, but you got to stay for a minute.
No, yeah, I'm fine with that.
All right. Good night, everyone.
Thanks, gentlemen. Okay, so we have a confirming bylaw to deal with here yet, and the recommendation that bylaw number 68-2025 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Wellington North at a special meeting held on October 29th be read and passed. Moved by Councillor Burke, seconded by Councillor Hearn. All those in favor? That's carried. And on to adjournment. The recommendation is that the special council meeting of October 29th, 2025 be adjourned at 8:25 p.m. Moved by Councillor McCabe, seconded by Councillor Burke. Thank you. All those in favor? That's carried. Thanks, everyone. We're done for tonight.
Thank you. Have a great night, everyone.
Have a good evening.
Good night.